We're obviously here in the state grand jury case against Richard Alec Murdaugh. He is present and represented by his counsel, Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin. As Your Honor is aware, we currently have trial scheduled to begin a week from Monday on at least one aspect of the multiple financial crimes that have been investigated and indicted by the state grand jury against Mr. Murdaugh for his abuse of his law license to steal money from clients. It is my understanding that Mr. Murdaugh here today intends to plead guilty pursuant to a plea agreement, which I will detail here in a moment, and that this will ultimately, if this proceeding goes through, will resolve those financial crimes that are alleged against Mr. Murdaugh. Your Honor, pursuant to that plea agreement, I believe you have a copy up at the bench. Is that correct, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Pursuant to that plea agreement, Your Honor, and I'll detail the plea agreement and the various provisions of it as we do this particular.
Is all that correct thus far, Mr. Harpootlian?
Yes, sir, Your Honor, it is.
All right. Go ahead, please.
And Your Honor, I would ask if the defendant could be sworn as we begin this proceeding, and obviously I think because it'd be fairly lengthy, I would request that they be allowed to sit during the state's presentation.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, if you'll stand and be sworn.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have, in fact, signed a plea agreement here with the defense here today. It has been executed by me for the state, as well as Mr. Harpootlian and Mr. Murdaugh himself. And you should have a number of sentencing sheets that are part of this plea. What we've endeavored to do with this plea is to bring some finality to this matter, but to also ensure that there's an appropriate sentence, a lengthy sentence that ensures that Mr. Murdaugh will remain in state prison for a very long time. Your Honor, there are a lot of charges, and so I'm going to first of all go through and detail the charges from the various indictments to which he will be pleading. And again, to put this plea together, we ensured that there was at least one, and sometimes more than one, representative charge for each victim that was victimized by Mr. Murdaugh in the course of his legal practice. The first indictment is 2021 GS 4727, and pursuant to this plea agreement, Mr. Murdaugh will be pleading to count 2, which is money laundering, value $100,000 or more, and that will be a negotiated sentence of 20 years. The second count to which he will be pleading is in 2021 GS 4728. This indictment was venued in Bamberg County and dealt with the crimes committed, first of all, in the diversion of the fees in the case that he shared with Chris Wilson from the firm, as well as ultimately not paying back, ultimately convincing Chris Wilson to cover $192,000 of those fees. Your Honor, he will be pleading in this for that indictment, count 1 for false pretenses, $10,000 or more, for a sentence of 10 years, as well as count 7, which is false pretenses, $10,000 or more, for another 10 years. The third indictment is 2021 GS 4729. This is the crime that is venued in Allendale County. The victim in this case was Dion Martin, and Mr. Murdaugh has agreed to plead guilty to count 1, breach of trust with fraudulent intent, $10,000 or more, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4730. This is venued here in Beaufort County, and this is the indictment that the state was prepared to try a week from Monday. This is the case involving the Satterfield matter, and he has agreed to plead to count 4, which is 2021 GS 4730, count 4 for 10 years. 2021 GS 4730, count 5 for 20 years, and 2021 GS 4730, count 8 for 20 years. Those latter 2 were money laundering. Those are 20-year offenses that are at 85% time that must be served. Your Honor, the next indictment to which he'll be pleading is 2021 GS 4731. This is where the victim was Manuel Santos Cristiani, and he will be pleading to breach of trust in count 1, and the negotiated sentence is 10 years. The next indictment, 2021 GS 4732, this is venued in Hampton County, and the victim was Randy Drawdy, and in that particular matter, he will be pleading to breach of trust, $2,000 to $10,000, and the negotiated sentence is 5 years. The next indictment is 2021 GS 4733, and this matter involved the estate of Blondell Gary and venued in Hampton County. In that particular case, he will be pleading guilty to count 2 for money laundering, value $100,000 or more. The negotiated sentence will be 20 years. The next indictment is 2021 GS 4734. This is venued in Hampton County, and the victim was Chris Anderson, and he will be pleading to count 2, which is money laundering $100,000 or more, with a negotiated sentence of 20 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4735. This is venued in Beaufort County, and the victim is Jordan Jinks. He will be pleading to forgery, 2021 GS 4735, count 5, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4736. This is venued in Hampton County. The victim is Johnny Bush, and he will be pleading to count 2, which is computer crime, value more than $10,000, for a negotiated sentence of 5 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4737. He will be pleading to count 1 in that one. That is venued in Hampton County, and the victim was Jamian Risher, and he will be pleading to a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2021 GS 4738. This is venued in Colleton County, and the victim was the estate of Sandra Taylor. He will be pleading in that matter to 2021 GS 4738, count 2, for money laundering. That's an 85% offense, and he will be pleading to a 7-year sentence on that particular crime that will be consecutive to count 5 of 2021 GS 30. The next one is 2022 GS 4701. This is venued in Hampton County. The victim was Natasha Thomas, and he will be pleading to breach of trust in count 1 to a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2022 GS 4702. In this instance, the victim was Hakeem Pinkney, and the heirs of Hakeem Pinkney. That is venued in Hampton County. He will be pleading to count 1, breach of trust, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. The next one is 2022 GS 4703. This is venued in Allendale County, and the victim was Arthur Badger. He will be pleading to count 1, breach of trust, for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. Additionally, 2022 GS 4710. This is venued in Colleton County. This actually had a criminal conspiracy and a drug offense in it. He will be pleading to the criminal conspiracy in that particular matter for a negotiated sentence of 5 years. The next one is 2022 GS 4723. This is venued in Hampton County, and the victim is Randy Murdaugh and the law firm. He will be pleading to count 3, which is money laundering, value more than $100,000, and for a negotiated sentence of 20 years. Your Honor, I would add that that particular count, and only that particular count, the plea will be pursuant to Alford. Moving on to 2022 GS 4724. This is, again, the law firm being the victim, venued in Colleton County, and he will be pleading to count 3 of obtaining signature of property by false pretenses for a negotiated sentence of 10 years. Finally, we have 2022 GS 4734. This is the series of indictments that related to his tax evasion based on his more than a decade-long schemes to defraud clients, and as well as defraud the South Carolina Department of Revenue. He will be pleading to count 9 of that particular indictment, and that will be willful attempt to evade a tax, and the negotiated sentence will be 5 years. Your Honor, obviously we are here today to resolve indictments that span the region and that span a number of counties. And this, of course, has materialized here today as we showed up for pretrial proceedings. And So obviously, the proposal that we have for your honor is to take these pleas today with these negotiated sentences that result in a net lead sentence of 27 years at 85% time. We do request that we defer sentencing to a later time so that all the various victims can be notified. We have been in the process of notifying them, but obviously want that proceeding to take place at a time where they can be present and speak to the court if they wish to. So we do have that request to your honor. Additionally, as we look at this particular plea agreement, because we have crimes to which he is pleading in various counties, we would request that there be a colloquy with the defendant to waive venue for those counties other than Beaufort to resolve those matters here today with this plea. In looking through the various provisions in the plea agreement, and we've gone over them in great detail with counsel, and I believe counsel has gone over them with his client. It sets forth the various pleas and the various counts to which you will be pleading that I just detailed, as well as the negotiated sentences. It also, though, has in this particular plea agreement that Mr. Murdaugh will waive any appeals that he may have and any post-conviction relief appeal that he may have as it relates to the financial matters that we are addressing here today, thus bringing finality to this sentence and to this chapter in the history of the South Carolina judicial system. Of course, though, we would request a colloquy with him about those particular waivers as well. In the event that Mr. Murdaugh accepts these pleas and accepts this negotiated sentence of 27 years in state prison, then obviously the state will null pros the various remaining counts following consummation of the plea. Additionally, it's important to point out that this plea today does nothing to address any county charges. This is only here to address the state grand jury charges that have been indicted. It has no effect, obviously, on the murder convictions and the litigation that surrounds the murder convictions. This, again, is only here to resolve those financial matters, and that is the point of this particular proceeding, to take care of that. I think those are perhaps the major provisions that we need to address that are in the plea agreement. Again, the main things that I think need to be addressed, of course, is from the plea agreement is Mr. Murdaugh's assent to the resolution, assent to the negotiated sentence. The other provision in there is restitution. In this particular document, Mr. Murdaugh admits that he owes restitution, but the exact amounts and that order will be deferred for when we have the sentencing proceeding here in the future. Finally, I think, Your Honor, we obviously need to address these issues with Mr. Murdaugh, and then at that time the state will go through the factual basis. It's obviously very extensive. We're talking about a multi-year course of conduct, and it is very detailed. I think our plan here for today, if this is all right with Your Honor, is for me to do a quicker version, which is still going to be fairly extensive, to get through the factual basis of this plea, and then at the sentencing proceeding, I would ask for leave of court again to go into more detail about exactly how Mr. Murdaugh committed these schemes, how he used his law license to abuse the judicial system. We think there's a valid, very important valid state interest in exposing those facts and exposing this long-time course of conduct, this abuse of power and influence for the public and for the judicial system itself. With that, Your Honor, I would yield to Your Honor to have the colloquy with Mr. Murdaugh, and then I'll be happy to address the factual basis after that.
Mr. Harpootlian.
Your Honor, Mr. Murdaugh agrees with the state's rendition concerning the plea agreement. He has executed that plea agreement. We would also withdraw our motion for recusal so we can proceed with you being the judge on this matter. I think that's all I would say prior to you having the colloquy with Mr. Murdaugh. Jim?
Mr. Griffin, any comment at this point?
No, Your Honor, I have nothing further to add.
Mr. Murdaugh, you've heard what Mr. Waters has stated. Do you agree with the statements he has made?
Yes, sir.
And do you wish to withdraw your formerly entered plea of not guilty and plead guilty to each and every one of these charges?
I do.
You, your lawyer, and the prosecutor have negotiated a sentence in this matter that's been recited by Mr. Waters. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And where there's a negotiated sentence, either I will accept the plea, guilty plea, and give you the exact sentence that you, your lawyer, and the prosecutor have negotiated, or I will not accept your guilty plea. Do you understand that?
I do, yes, sir.
And would you like for me to accept the guilty plea and impose the negotiated sentence?
Yes, sir, I would.
And because these cases, various counts are venued in various counties, Orangeburg County, Hampton County, Colleton County, Bamberg County, Allendale County, I think that in addition to Beaufort, do you wish to waive venue from those counties to have the case heard? Now, this plea agreement includes a provision providing for a waiver of appeal and waiver of filing any post-conviction relief, as well as ordering restitution. You have reviewed those provisions and are fully informed and agree with those provisions.
I am, yes, sir.
Under the Victim's Bill of Rights, the court must ensure that the Victim's Bill of Rights have been complied with. The state is well aware of that, as well as your lawyers. And the victims have the right to be heard prior to the official imposition of any sentence or the official acceptance of a guilty plea. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
And so it's the intent of the court, assuming a factual basis is established by Mr. Waters or Mr. James, that the court will accept this guilty plea contingent upon the Victim's Bill of Rights being satisfied. Therefore, any sentencing will take place at a subsequent hearing, which will be on November 28th at 10 o'clock. Do you understand that?
It'll be when, sir?
November 28th.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, Tuesday.
I'm sorry.
I understood it wouldn't be today. Yes, sir. I understand that.
All right. And understanding all that has been stated up to this point, how do you plead?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. You can be seated, and we'll hear from Mr. Waters.